Ethan had been thinking about this dinner all week. His friend, Maya, had insisted he try the blind date app she swore by. "It's foolproof," she had said. "You're going to meet someone amazing." Ethan wasn't so sure. He had been on enough bad dates to know that the word amazing was often exaggerated. Still, tonight he had dressed nicely, combed his hair carefully, and even practiced a few conversation starters in the mirror. If nothing else, he thought, he would at least have a good story for Maya. The restaurant wasn't far from his apartment, a small but elegant place with soft lights and quiet music. Ethan arrived early, hoping to make a good first impression by showing punctuality, a trait he considered heroic in its own small way. He chose a table near the window, giving himself a view of the street outside and an easy exit if things went horribly wrong. He tried to focus on the ambiance, listening to the soft clinking of cutlery and thinking that maybe tonight could surprise him. Then she arrived. Her name was supposed to be Chloe. She had a loud voice that immediately carried across the room. Ethan could hear her speaking animatedly with the hostess about something that sounded like aliens or government secrets. He tried to focus on the table settings, on the soft glow of the candle, on anything really, except her words. Finally, she noticed him. She waved enthusiastically and made her way to the table, practically knocking over a glass on her way. "Ethan, hi! Oh my gosh, this place is fancy. Do you come here often?" she asked, plopping into the chair across from him. Ethan forced a smile. Not really. First time." Her hands flew through the air as she spoke, gesturing wildly. "I just love trying new things. Did you know the government has secret experiments about human evolution? They're trying to... Oh, I forget, but it's insane. Totally insane." Ethan blinked. Okay." She leaned closer. "And don't get me started on aliens. I read somewhere that humans might actually be hybrid species. Half us, half..." Ethan's eyes widened. He tried to interject, but she was already talking over him. "Oh, and you should see the videos online, the ones where they show the patterns in the stars, like messages from space. Incredible, right? I bet you never think about stuff like this." He did think about things like this sometimes. He liked sci-fi, but he was beginning to feel trapped. He tried to steer the conversation toward neutral topics: work, hobbies, favorite movies. Every attempt was interrupted by another wild tangent about alien conspiracies or secret government plots. By the time the appetizer arrived, Ethan realized he hadn't had a chance to say more than 3 words without Chloe cutting in with another story. The waiter placed a plate of salad in front of her, and she immediately held it up like a trophy. "Do you see this? Organic? Locally sourced? Probably better than anything they serve in Washington?" Ethan nodded politely, wondering how he had ended up in this situation. He glanced around the restaurant, noticing other diners quietly enjoying their meals. Then he noticed her. Sitting a few tables over was a young woman with short brown hair and glasses. She had a soft smile and a calm way of watching the room. Every so often she glanced over at Ethan and Chloe, and Ethan felt a strange sense of relief. He didn't know her, but just knowing someone else was observing this chaos with amusement made him feel less alone. Back at his table, Chloe had moved on to a new topic: ancient civilizations, and whether they had secretly contacted extraterrestrials. Ethan nodded again, desperately hoping the salad would distract her. Instead, she picked up a piece of lettuce and waved it like a wand. "Did you know the pyramids might be star maps? And not just any stars, like the actual coordinates to, well, something, probably a spaceship landing zone." Ethan chuckled nervously. "That's interesting." "Interesting?" she exclaimed. "That's amazing. You're no fun." "I can tell already." She leaned back dramatically, folding her arms. "Wait, I have an idea. You like puzzles, right? Imagine figuring out alien math hidden in ancient texts. That would be a test of human intelligence." Ethan tried to smile. I like puzzles, yes, but not interstellar conspiracies? She finished for him. Ha! I knew it! Most humans are boring. The words stung, but Ethan didn't respond. Instead, he shifted in his chair and tried to focus on the breadsticks. At least the breadsticks were neutral. They wouldn't argue with him. Minutes passed. The conversation only grew wilder. Chloe had now moved on to recounting a true story about how she supposedly encountered a UFO while hiking last summer. Ethan tried to maintain interest, nodding occasionally, but he could feel his patience stretching thin. He glanced again toward the young woman with glasses. She smiled faintly, and Ethan thought he might actually give her a tiny grateful nod. Then it happened. Chloe reached across the table to grab his glass of water, spilling it across the white tablecloth. Ethan jumped back, trying to save his phone from the flood. Chloe apologized loudly, attracting the attention of nearby diners, but quickly waved them off. Don't worry. It's just water. Water is good for humans anyway. Ethan took a deep breath, silently counting to 10. He looked toward the door, imagining himself leaving gracefully. But the young woman at the next table made eye contact again, this time with a small, almost conspiratorial smile, as if silently saying, "You're not trapped forever. Someone sane exists nearby." Finally, Ethan realized he had had enough. The main course hadn't even arrived yet, and he was already exhausted. He smiled weakly at Chloe. I just remembered something I have to do. Really important." "Oh, already?" she said, pouting. "It's only been 20 minutes." "I know," Ethan said, "but I need to go." Chloe's jaw dropped. "Leave? Here? But we haven't even ordered—" "I know, I really do," Ethan interrupted. "I'm sorry." He stood, fumbling for his jacket. Chloe reached to grab his arm. Ethan gently shook it off and made his way to the door. Outside, the cool night air hit him, and he felt like he could breathe again. The chaos of the restaurant seemed far away, replaced by the quiet hum of the city. Ethan walked down the street, unsure where he was going. His heart still raced from the date, from Chloe's intensity, and from the mild panic of escaping in one piece. Then he heard a voice. "You look like you could use a drink that's actually relaxing." He turned. The young woman from the restaurant was walking toward him, holding a small to-go cup of coffee. "I'm Lila," she said, extending her hand. "I saw the, performance inside. Thought you might need a friendly face." Ethan blinked, then smiled. Yeah, that would be great. I'm Ethan." They walked down the street together, the city lights reflecting off puddles from an earlier rain. Ethan felt a strange mixture of relief and curiosity. Lila seemed calm, grounded, and completely different from Chloe. She laughed softly at some of his nervous jokes, and Ethan found himself actually enjoying the conversation. "So," Lila said, tilting her head, "what happened in there? Did she explain the alien star coordinates thing?" Ethan groaned. "I tried to explain my job, my hobbies, basically my entire life. Then she told me humans might be part alien, and I'm pretty sure I was supposed to solve an interstellar puzzle." Lila laughed, a warm, easy laugh that made Ethan's chest feel lighter. "Wow, that sounds exhausting." "You have no idea," Ethan said, smiling genuinely for the first time that night. They walked a few more blocks, talking about ordinary things, music, books, favorite coffee flavors. For the first time in hours, Ethan felt a sense of normalcy. There was no chaos, no wild conspiracies, no judgment, just a conversation flowing naturally between two people. As they approached a quiet park bench, Lila turned to him. "You know," she said, "you survived that dinner. That deserves some credit. Most people would have run for the hills. I'd say you passed some kind of human endurance test." Ethan chuckled. "I'm not sure if I should feel proud or traumatized." "Both," Lila said with a grin. "It's human to handle disasters with style. You did that." So maybe want to get a proper coffee sometime, without any alien conspiracies involved? Ethan hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Yeah, I'd like that. And for the first time that evening, Ethan felt hopeful. Maybe blind dates weren't the worst thing in the world. Sometimes the real story started when the disaster ended. The next morning, Ethan woke up with a mixture of relief and curiosity. The disastrous blind date was behind him, yet he couldn't stop thinking about Lila. She was calm, funny, and had somehow made him feel at ease after the chaos. Most people would have avoided someone like him after a disaster like last night, but not her. She seemed genuinely interested, not just polite. Ethan brewed a cup of coffee, thinking about what to say in a text. Thanks for helping me survive last night. Want to meet for real coffee? He hesitated. It sounded awkward, maybe too direct, but he typed it anyway and hit send. Within minutes, his phone buzzed. Sure, how about 5 p.m. at Central Cafe? I'll bring a normal cup of coffee, promise? Lila. Ethan smiled, feeling a small thrill. It wasn't just a coffee date, it was a chance to start over without chaos looming. By evening, Ethan arrived at Central Cafe. It was smaller than the restaurant he had been trapped in, cozy and warm, with soft lights spilling onto the street. He spotted Lila immediately. She waved at him, holding a steaming cup of coffee and a small notebook. Hey, Ethan, she said with a smile. Glad you made it. Me too, Ethan replied. This place looks peaceful. Lila laughed. It's my favorite. No distractions, just people, coffee, and sometimes interesting strangers. She gestured to the empty seat across from her. Sit. Tell me, are you ready for a normal evening? Ethan settled into the chair, feeling more relaxed than he had in a long time. I think I can handle it. No alien puzzles tonight, right? Nope, Lila said. Unless you find one under your coffee cup. She tapped the cup playfully. They both laughed, and the ice broke immediately. Conversation flowed naturally, no chaos, no interruptions. They talked about their work, favorite books, and even shared childhood stories. Ethan found himself leaning forward, genuinely interested, and Lila seemed just as eager to listen. So, Lila said after a while, tell me something most people don't know about you. No limits. Be honest. Ethan thought for a moment. He had always been cautious, careful not to reveal too much too soon. But something about Lila made him feel safe. Well, I've always loved space. Not just astronomy, but imagining what it would be like if humans could travel to other planets, meet alien life, explore unknown worlds. I guess I've always wanted adventure, even if it's just in my mind. Lila's eyes lit up. I get that. I love imagining what humans can do. We're clever, unpredictable, and sometimes stubborn. But that's what makes us amazing. We always find a way, even when things seem impossible. Ethan smiled, realizing she wasn't just listening. She understood. She didn't dismiss his interest as childish or strange. She celebrated it. They ordered dessert and shared a chocolate cake, laughing at each other's messy bites. Outside, the night was cool but not cold. Streetlights reflected off puddles from the earlier rain, giving the city a quiet glow. Ethan noticed how easy it was to walk next to Lila without awkward silence. She didn't pressure him, didn't ask the serious questions too soon, and didn't act like she expected perfection. Ethan, Lila said suddenly, stopping on the sidewalk, can I ask you something? Sure, he said. Why do people usually give up on blind dates so quickly? She tilted her head, curious. Ethan chuckled nervously. Because usually it's just awkward, or boring, or both. You hope for connection, but most of the time, people try too hard or talk too much about themselves. Or, like last night, they talk about aliens and pyramids. Lila laughed. Fair, but you didn't run away completely. That says something about you. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Something good or bad? Good, she said simply. You're patient, observant, and maybe a little brave. Most people would have just disappeared when things got weird. He smiled, feeling a warmth he hadn't felt in a long time. It wasn't romantic yet, not exactly, but it was something deeper. Connection, understanding, humanity at its best. Friendly, thoughtful, adaptive. They walked together, talking about ordinary things. Work, favorite movies, music, the little quirks that made life interesting. Lila shared funny stories about her job at a small tech startup, while Ethan told her about the books he loved and the places he dreamed of visiting. The conversation moved easily, with laughter and occasional comfortable pauses. Then Lila pointed to a street performer juggling glowing sticks. "See that?" she said. "People do amazing things all the time. Humans can adapt, improvise, and make magic out of ordinary moments. It's kind of like surviving a bad date. You never know what's coming, but you make the best of it." Ethan laughed. "That's actually a good way to look at it." Lila smiled, her eyes reflecting the neon glow from a nearby sign. "You survived the disaster inside. Now, you're enjoying the adventure outside. That's human resilience." Ethan felt a small thrill. She had a way of saying things that made him feel both proud and calm at the same time. He realized that this wasn't just a coffee meetup. It was a rare moment of connection, the kind he had almost forgotten existed. As they walked further, Lila suggested they take a detour through a quiet park. "It's peaceful at night," she said. "No chaos, no crowds, just space to think." Ethan agreed. The park was almost empty, except for a few people walking dogs or jogging. The moonlight reflected off the pond, giving everything a soft silver glow. They walked slowly, talking about small dreams and small fears. "You know," Ethan said after a pause, "it's funny. Last night felt like a disaster, but meeting you, it already feels like something better came out of it." Lila glanced at him, a small smile playing on her lips. Life has a funny way of doing that. Sometimes the mess leads to something unexpected. "Something real." Ethan nodded. He realized she was right. The disaster had been necessary in a way to lead him to this moment. Walking in the night, talking freely, feeling safe and understood. They stopped at a bench near the pond, sitting side by side. For a moment, neither spoke. The quiet of the night felt comforting. Then Lila looked at him and said softly, "I like spending time with you, Ethan. And not just because you survived last night. You're easy to be around, honest. You see the world in a way most people forget to." Ethan felt a rush of warmth. "I feel the same about you," he said. "I didn't expect to meet anyone tonight who gets it. Gets me." Lila laughed softly. "Well, humans have a way of surprising each other. Even when it seems impossible, we find connection. That's what makes us human." They talked for a while longer, sharing small thoughts and dreams until the night grew late. Ethan realized how quickly the time had passed. He felt lighter than he had in days, as if the disaster from last night had been washed away, replaced by something genuinely good. Finally, they stood to leave. Ethan walked her back toward the cafe where they had first met. "Thank you, Lila," he said sincerely, "for showing up. For all of this." Lila smiled. "Anytime, Ethan. Sometimes humans just need a little help to find the good in a messy world. I'm glad I could be that." They exchanged a wave, a smile, and Ethan felt a spark of hope. He didn't know where this would go, if it would become a real relationship, a friendship, or something else, but he knew he wanted to see her again. As he walked home, he reflected on what had happened. The blind date had been a disaster, truly, but it had led him to something unexpected, something real, something human. For the first time in a long while, Ethan felt grateful for the chaos that had pushed him out of his comfort zone. Humanity wasn't perfect. Humans were messy, awkward, and unpredictable. But humans also found each other, connected, and created moments like this. Unexpected, simple, beautiful moments. And Ethan was ready to embrace them. The weekend came, and Ethan found himself thinking about Lila more than he had expected. After the disastrous blind date and the surprisingly pleasant coffee walk, he felt a strange mix of excitement and nervousness. Something about her made him want to be better, braver, and maybe even a little more open than usual. Saturday morning, he texted her, "Want to meet at the city park? I thought we could do a little adventure walk." A few minutes later, his phone buzzed. "Perfect! Bring your sneakers." Lila. By mid-morning, Ethan was at the park, wearing comfortable shoes and carrying a small backpack with a bottle of water. The sun was bright, the sky clear, and birds chirped lazily in the trees. It was one of those mornings that made him grateful for simple things: fresh air, open space, and the chance to escape the usual routine. Lila arrived a few minutes later, waving from the path with a smile. "Ready for an adventure?" she called. Ethan laughed. "Depends on how dangerous it is." "Depends on how brave you are," she teased, walking toward him. They started their walk slowly, enjoying the quiet of the park. Children played in the distance, and couples strolled along winding paths. Ethan noticed how Lila seemed to notice everything: the way sunlight hit the leaves, the patterns in the clouds, even the way a squirrel moved across a branch. She had a way of making ordinary things feel extraordinary. "So," Ethan said after a while, "do you always notice all these little details?" "Sometimes," Lila said. "It's my way of remembering that humans are capable of amazing things. We adapt, we explore, we create. Even small things can be beautiful if you pay attention." Ethan smiled. She always had a way of turning ordinary thoughts into something meaningful. He liked that about her. As they walked further into the park, they heard a commotion near the playground. A small child had dropped her balloon, and it had floated high into a tree. She was crying, clearly upset. While her parents tried to console her, without thinking, Ethan stepped forward. "I'll get it," he said, looking up at the balloon tangled in the branches. Lila raised an eyebrow. "You're brave, aren't you?" Ethan laughed nervously. "Or maybe just stubborn." He found a low branch and climbed carefully, reaching as high as he could. The branch shook under his weight, but he managed to free the balloon and hand it back to the little girl. Her eyes lit up, and she hugged it tightly, smiling at Ethan. "Thank you," she said. "You're welcome," Ethan replied, climbing down. Lila clapped lightly. That was impressive. Humans are amazing sometimes. You could have stayed in your comfort zone, but you didn't. Ethan felt a warm pride. It wasn't about showing off. It was about doing something kind without thinking of reward, and Lila noticed. That made him feel human, in the best way possible. They continued their walk, laughing at small jokes and teasing each other about who could spot the most interesting thing in the park. Lila challenged him to a nature hunt, pointing out patterns in tree bark, shapes in clouds, and even unusual rock formations. Ethan, competitive by nature, tried to find things she hadn't noticed. They laughed, ran a little, and argued playfully over who had the better observation skills. After a while, they reached a small pond surrounded by benches and willow trees. Ethan sat on a bench, and Lila joined him, pulling out her notebook. "I like drawing things I notice," she explained. "It's like keeping memories, even of small moments." Ethan peeked at her sketch. She had drawn the pond, the trees, and even a family of ducks swimming nearby. It was simple, but beautiful. "You really notice everything," he said softly. "I try," Lila said. "It helps me appreciate life. Humans can do so many amazing things, but we often forget the little details that make life worth noticing." Ethan thought about last night, about the chaotic blind date, and about the calm connection he now had with her. He realized she was right. Humans were capable of so much: kindness, creativity, empathy, but they often got distracted by stress or fear. Lila reminded him of the best parts of humanity: noticing beauty, helping others, and connecting with each other. As they sat quietly, a sudden loud crash broke the calm. A bicyclist had lost control and skidded near the pond. A small child nearby screamed, and the mother rushed forward. Without hesitation, Ethan jumped up and ran toward the scene. Lila followed closely behind. Ethan checked the bicyclist, who had scraped his knee but was otherwise okay. He helped him sit up and assured the frightened child and parent that everyone was fine. Lila helped calm the crowd, speaking softly and keeping people focused. When the situation was under control, they both sat back on the bench, catching their breath. "Wow," Lila said, shaking her head. "Humans really are capable of handling chaos." Ethan smiled, feeling a little proud. "We are," he said. "It's weirdly reassuring." Lila looked at him with a thoughtful expression. "You don't always have to be perfect, Ethan. Humans make mistakes, face challenges, and mess up. But we also find ways to fix them, adapt, and help each other. That's what makes us strong." Ethan realized she wasn't just talking about the bicycle accident. She was talking about life in general. Humans stumble, they face disasters, like his blind date, but they keep moving, learning, and growing, and sometimes the right person notices. He glanced at Lila, noticing the way her hair caught the sunlight, the sparkle in her eyes, and the calm confidence in her posture. She had a way of making even ordinary moments feel important. I think I understand," he said softly. "Humans can handle a lot, and we're better when we help each other." "Exactly," Lila said, smiling. "Even small actions matter. Even small moments can be magical." They sat in silence for a few minutes, watching the pond and listening to the gentle rustle of leaves. Ethan felt a sense of peace he hadn't felt in a long time. Life was unpredictable, chaotic even, but humans, people like him and Lila, made it meaningful. After a while, Lila closed her notebook. "You know," she said, "I like spending time with someone who notices the world, someone who tries even when things get messy. That's rare." Ethan looked at her, a small smile forming. "I feel the same way. You remind me why it's worth noticing things even when life is chaotic." She laughed softly. "Humans can surprise each other. That's one of the best things about us." Ethan felt a warm glow in his chest. This wasn't just a friendship forming. It was a human connection, the kind that reminded him of hope, kindness, and resilience. As the afternoon faded into early evening, they walked back toward the park entrance. Ethan felt lighter than he had in days, as if the small adventures, the laughs, and even the little crises had shown him something important. Humanity wasn't about perfection. It was about trying, caring, and noticing the people around you. At the park entrance, Lila turned to him. "I had a really good time today, Ethan. Thank you for being human with me." Ethan laughed. "I could say the same about you." They exchanged a quiet smile, the kind that carried more meaning than words. Ethan realized that sometimes life's disasters, like the blind date, were necessary to bring the right people together. Humans stumbled, faced challenges, and made mistakes, but they also connected, helped, and inspired each other. And for Ethan, today was proof. As they parted ways, Lila waved and said, "See you soon? Maybe our next adventure will be even more human." Ethan nodded. "Absolutely, I'll be ready." Walking home, he reflected on the day. Life was messy, unpredictable, and often chaotic. But humans had a way of handling it, with courage, kindness, and connection, and sometimes the right person noticed. Ethan smiled. He felt lucky, grateful, and human in the best possible way. The following week felt like it passed in a blur for Ethan. He kept replaying moments from his walk with Lila, her laughter, her calm way of seeing the world, and the way she seemed to notice the smallest details. Each time he thought about her, a smile crept onto his face. He knew he wanted to see her again, to learn more about her, and maybe, just maybe, to let someone in for the first time in a long while. When his phone buzzed one Thursday morning, Ethan nearly dropped it. "Hey, fancy a real adventure this weekend? I found something interesting in the old industrial district. It might be a little tricky, but I think humans can handle it." Lila. Ethan's heart raced. Adventure. That word made him nervous and excited at the same time. He quickly typed back, "Count me in, I'm ready." Saturday arrived, bright and windy. Ethan put on comfortable shoes, grabbed his backpack, and headed to the city outskirts. The industrial district was a mix of abandoned warehouses and empty streets. Most people avoided it, but Lila had insisted it would be perfect for testing human curiosity and courage. She was waiting near a large, weathered warehouse, wearing sturdy shoes and a backpack like his own. "Ready?" she asked, eyes sparkling with excitement. "Ready," Ethan said, trying to match her energy, though a small part of him felt nervous. "Good," Lila said. "Let's see what humans can do today." They started walking through the abandoned streets, carefully avoiding broken glass and rusted metal. The air smelled faintly of dust and old paint, but Lila seemed to find beauty in the decay. "Humans can make anything interesting if they look closely," she said, pointing at a faded mural on a wall. Ethan nodded. "I guess that's true." They entered the warehouse through a large, half-open door. Inside, sunlight streamed through broken windows, casting shadows on the cracked concrete floor. Rusted machinery sat in corners, and old crates were stacked against the walls. Lila's eyes lit up as she explored the space. "This is perfect. Imagine the stories these walls could tell. Humans built it, humans abandoned it, and humans could explore it safely. Or at least, try to." Ethan laughed. "You make everything sound exciting." As they wandered deeper, they heard a sudden creaking sound. A pile of old crates shifted, and a cloud of dust rose into the air. Ethan instinctively stepped forward to steady the stack, but in doing so, he tripped over a loose piece of wood. Lila quickly grabbed his arm, steadying him before he fell. "Careful," she said, laughing softly. "Humans are adaptable, yes, but maybe not invincible." Ethan smiled sheepishly. "Thanks for saving me." "You save yourself most of the time," Lila said. "I just help notice when things get tricky." They moved further into the warehouse. At the far end, they discovered a large, locked metal door. It looked old, heavy, and slightly rusted. Lila's eyes lit up. "This is it," she whispered. "I've read about this place. There might be something hidden inside, old equipment, maybe even something historical. Humans love a mystery." Ethan hesitated. "Are you sure we should try to open it?" Lila grinned. "Where's the fun in asking questions without taking a risk?" Together, they examined the door. The lock was old, but not impossible. Ethan fiddled with it carefully while Lila observed. After a few minutes, he managed to slide the bolt open. The door creaked loudly as they pushed it open. Inside, a large room was filled with machinery, old workbenches, and forgotten tools. Sunlight filtered through cracks in the roof, creating a magical atmosphere. "This is amazing," Lila whispered. "Humans made this, humans abandoned this, and now humans like us get to explore it." Ethan felt a thrill. It wasn't just the adventure, it was the teamwork, the shared excitement, and the human curiosity that made every moment feel alive. They wandered the room, touching old machines, examining blueprints, and imagining the lives of people who had worked here years ago. Suddenly, they heard a loud crash. A metal shelf wobbled and toppled toward Lila. Without thinking, Ethan lunged forward and pushed her out of the way. The shelf clanged to the floor, creating a cloud of dust. Both of them coughed, trying to see through the haze. "Are you okay?" Ethan asked, his heart racing. "I'm fine," Lila said, brushing herself off. "But wow! That was close. Humans are lucky sometimes." Ethan laughed nervously. "Or maybe humans are quick thinkers under pressure." "Exactly," Lila said, smiling. "You didn't panic. You acted. That's human ingenuity." They continued exploring cautiously, now more aware of their surroundings. The room held small treasures, old tools, faded papers, and a few forgotten personal items. Lila carefully examined them, noting details and making sketches in her notebook. Ethan admired the way she appreciated history, imagination, and human creativity. After a while, they came across a narrow stairwell leading to the upper floor. The steps were old and creaked under their weight, but they climbed carefully. At the top, they found a small office space, surprisingly intact. Old documents were stacked neatly on a desk, and a small window offered a view of the city skyline in the distance. "This is incredible," Ethan said. "It's like stepping back in time." "Yes," Lila said softly. "And it reminds us that humans can create, explore, and leave legacies, even when life moves on. We adapt, we learn, and we notice the beauty others leave behind." Ethan felt inspired. It wasn't just the adventure. It was the way humans, through time and effort, left pieces of themselves for others to discover. That was resilience, creativity, and ingenuity, all qualities he admired. As they explored, a sudden loud banging echoed from below. Dust fell from the ceiling, and both of them froze. "What was that?" Ethan whispered. "Probably just the building settling," Lila said, though her eyes were alert. "But let's be careful." They cautiously made their way down the stairs, keeping close to each other. Near the entrance, they saw a group of teenagers had wandered into the building without realizing anyone else was inside. They were throwing small objects around, clearly unaware of the danger. Ethan and Lila exchanged a glance. "We need to get them out safely," Lila said. Ethan nodded. "I'll talk to them. You, make sure no one else gets hurt." He approached the teenagers, speaking calmly but firmly. "Hey, this place is dangerous. You could get hurt." The teenagers laughed at first, but when Lila gently explained the hazards, rusted metal, weak floors, falling objects, they began to understand. Together, Ethan and Lila guided them to the exit, keeping the situation under control. When the building was finally empty again, they both leaned against a wall, breathing heavily. "That was intense," Ethan said, laughing nervously. "Humans are resilient, yes, but also a little reckless sometimes." Lila smiled. "And that's why humans are incredible. We face challenges, make mistakes, and still find ways to adapt. We notice danger, we act, and we help each other. That's what makes us strong." Ethan realized she was right. The adventure, the chaos, and the unexpected challenge had revealed something about him, and about humans in general. Courage wasn't the absence of fear, it was action despite fear. Kindness wasn't the absence of mistakes, it was the choice to help. He looked at Lila, feeling gratitude and admiration. "Thanks for letting me come today, for everything. I've learned more about humans in one morning with you than I have in a long time." Lila laughed softly. "You didn't need me to learn. You acted, noticed, and adapted. Humans do that naturally. I just pointed it out." Ethan felt a warmth in his chest. Today had been more than an adventure. It had been a lesson in human resilience, creativity, and connection. He had experienced fear, chaos, and the thrill of discovery, but he had also learned that humans could face challenges together and grow stronger. As they walked out of the industrial district, the sun beginning to dip toward the horizon, Ethan realized how lucky he felt. The blind date disaster had led him here, not just to a new friend, but to someone who reminded him of the best parts of being human: courage, adaptability, and the ability to connect meaningfully with others. Lila glanced at him, smiling. "So? Same time next adventure?" Ethan nodded. "Absolutely. Humans like us don't stop discovering." They laughed, walking together as the city lights flickered on. For Ethan, the world felt brighter, fuller, and more exciting. Life could be unpredictable, challenging, and messy, but humans had a way of turning even danger and chaos into moments of connection, growth, and hope. And Ethan knew that, with Lila by his side, every adventure would feel worth it. The following week felt unusually light for Ethan. After the adventures with Lila, the peaceful walk in the park, and the chaotic exploration of the abandoned warehouse, he found himself looking forward to the weekend with an eager anticipation he hadn't felt in years. It wasn't just about spending time with Lila. It was about seeing life differently, noticing the small things, and embracing the unpredictable. On Saturday morning, Ethan texted her, "Are we doing another adventure today?" A few minutes later, his phone buzzed. "Yes, I found a small urban trail near the river. It's peaceful, fun, and completely safe. Humans can handle it." Lila. Ethan smiled. The way Lila described things made even a simple walk feel exciting. He packed a small backpack with water, a snack, and his favorite notebook, partly to sketch, partly to write down the moments that mattered. By mid-morning, he arrived at the trail. Lila was already there, waving from the start of a narrow path lined with trees and wildflowers. "Morning, Ethan. Ready for a human adventure?" Ethan laughed. "I think so. After last week, I feel prepared for anything." "Good," Lila said, her eyes sparkling. "Humans always rise to the challenge." They started walking, enjoying the warmth of the sun on their faces and the sound of bird song. The path was quiet, with only the occasional cyclist passing by. Ethan noticed how relaxed he felt in her presence. There was no pressure, no chaos, just two people walking, talking, and noticing the world together. "So," Lila said after a while, "what's been on your mind this week?" Ethan thought for a moment. "Honestly, you. And how much I've learned from you about noticing, adapting, and appreciating things humans often take for granted." Lila smiled softly. "I'm glad. Humans forget that sometimes. We get caught up in stress, routines, and expectations. But the truth is, we're capable of so much: courage, creativity, kindness, even in small ways every day." Ethan nodded, feeling a warm glow inside. "I never realized how much I'd been missing." They walked in companionable silence for a few minutes, listening to the wind rustle the trees and the gentle ripple of the river nearby. Then Lila stopped and pointed to a small wooden bridge crossing a narrow stream. "Want to explore that?" she asked. "Absolutely," Ethan replied. They carefully stepped onto the bridge. It creaked slightly under their weight, but it held firm. From the center, they could see the water flowing smoothly below, reflecting sunlight in sparkling patterns. Ethan leaned on the railing, watching the currents swirl around small stones. "You know," Lila said softly, "humans are like this stream. We face obstacles, twists, and turns. But we keep moving, finding a path forward, adapting to the currents. That's what makes us resilient." Ethan looked at her, impressed. "That's actually really beautiful. I never thought of humans that way." Lila shrugged, smiling. "Sometimes you just need someone to notice the little details." They continued along the trail, talking about small dreams and personal goals. Ethan shared his hope of someday traveling to a quiet countryside, exploring nature, and writing about it. Lila talked about her desire to see the world, sketching moments she found inspiring, and helping others notice the beauty in ordinary life. After some time, they reached a clearing with a large oak tree in the center. Sunlight poured through its branches, casting intricate shadows on the ground. Lila sat beneath it, patting the spot beside her. "Come sit," she said. Ethan joined her, feeling the warmth of the sun and the calm energy of the space. For a moment, they simply sat, watching the world. It was peaceful, ordinary, and yet extraordinary. "You know," Lila said after a while, "I like spending time with you because you notice things, but also because you try. Humans can make mistakes, face challenges, and still keep going. That's rare." Ethan felt a surge of gratitude. "I feel the same. You remind me of what humans are really capable of." They shared a quiet laugh, feeling a connection that went beyond words. Ethan realized that this wasn't just friendship anymore. It was trust, admiration, and a growing bond that seemed natural and unforced. Suddenly, a light breeze rustled the leaves, and a bird swooped down, landing near the tree. Ethan pointed it out to Lila, who quickly sketched it in her notebook. "See?" she said. "Even the smallest things can be remarkable if you notice them." Ethan smiled, watching her carefully capture the bird on paper. He felt inspired to be more aware, more present, and more engaged in life. Humans were capable of so much when they chose to pay attention, to care, and to act. As the afternoon sun began to dip toward the horizon, they decided to head back along the trail. Walking side by side, they reflected on the adventures they had shared. The disastrous blind date, the coffee walk, the warehouse exploration, and now, this peaceful trail. Each moment had taught them something about human resilience, curiosity, and connection. "Ethan," Lila said suddenly, "I have a question, but it's serious." Ethan looked at her, slightly nervous. "Okay, what is it? Do you think humans are worth it?" she asked. "Not just in the grand sense, but in the small ways, how we help each other, notice beauty, adapt, and keep trying even when life is hard." Ethan thought for a moment, then smiled. "Absolutely. Humans are messy, sometimes reckless, but also brave, creative, and capable of amazing things. And I think seeing the world with someone who notices it makes it even better." Lila smiled, her eyes warm. "I agree, and I'm glad I get to share it with you." They walked the last part of the trail in comfortable silence, feeling the quiet bond growing between them. For Ethan, this was the realization he had been waiting for. Humanity wasn't perfect, but it was remarkable. Courage, kindness, curiosity, and connection were all qualities humans carried naturally, and sharing them with the right person made life even richer. As they reached the parking area, Ethan turned to Lila. "I've had an incredible time today. More than I can say. You've reminded me of why humans are capable of so much." Lila laughed softly. "And you've reminded me that humans don't need perfection to make life meaningful. We just need to care, act, and notice each other." Ethan felt a deep sense of contentment. The blind date disaster, the chaotic moments, and the small adventures had all led to this, a connection that was real, grounded, and human. "Do you want to do this again?" Ethan asked. Lila smiled, her eyes sparkling. "Of course. Humans like us don't stop exploring, and maybe we can explore more than just trails next time." Ethan laughed. "I'd like that. Humans and adventures. Sounds perfect." They shared a quiet smile, both understanding that life was unpredictable, messy, and full of surprises. But together, they could face it, enjoy it, and create meaningful moments. As Ethan drove home later, he reflected on the journey of the past week. From a disastrous blind date to quiet walks, chaotic explorations, and now shared reflections, He realized how much humans could teach each other. Curiosity, resilience, kindness, and the ability to adapt. These were the qualities that made life extraordinary. And he realized something else, too: human connection. The kind that was genuine and understanding, could transform even the most ordinary days into something remarkable. That night, Ethan sat by his window, looking at the city lights. He thought of Lila, of their adventures, and of all the small moments they had shared. He smiled, feeling grateful for life's unpredictability and for the human spirit that made it all worthwhile. Sometimes he realized disasters weren't failures. They were opportunities, moments that pushed humans to notice, act, and connect in ways they might never have expected. And when the right person came along, someone who appreciated those qualities, life became brighter, fuller, and more meaningful. Ethan thought back to his blind date, the disaster that had seemed so humiliating at the time. Without it, he never would have met Lila. Without it, he never would have seen the beauty in chaos, the magic in ordinary moments, or the power of human connection. And as he drifted off to sleep, he felt something rare and wonderful: hope. The kind of hope that comes from knowing that humans, messy, imperfect, brave, creative humans, could build meaningful connections, face challenges together, and create moments of genuine happiness. Ethan knew that this was only the beginning. More adventures awaited, more lessons to learn, more moments to notice, and more connections to build. And he couldn't wait to share them with Lila. Humans were remarkable. Humans were resilient. Humans were capable of transforming even the ordinary into something extraordinary, and Ethan was ready to embrace it all.